Hey guys, welcome back to the Mountaintop 9 podcast. And this time I want to talk about the Ozzy album No More Tears, which came out back in 1991. And the first memory that pops in my head when I think of No More Tears is when this album came out. First of all, it's a very streamlined commercial album. You know, it has songs like Mama, I'm Coming Home and Time After Time and I Don't Want to Change the World. Those were really radio friendly type songs. Okay. So this album commercially was really at the forefront. It really got a lot of attention, I think, in a way that No Rest for the Wicked didn't. No Rest for the Wicked, the previous Ozzy album, was more of a true 80s metal album, and it had, sinister type songs like Bloodbath in Paradise and Demon Alcohol and just raunchy songs like Tattooed Dancer. So No Rest for the Wicked had more of a metal flair to it, whereas, like I said, No More Tears is just streamlined and commercial. But at the same time, it's a solid album. It's got some good rockin' songs on it. I think Mr. Tinker Train is a rockin' tune. I mean, that's a fun song. That part in the song where Ozzy says, you can't run, you can't hide. That part there towards the end of the tune. I love it when Ozzy has that kind of a ferocious quality in his voice, if you will. It sounds kind of rough, but he's really hitting a really nice, strong note. It reminds me of stuff he does on Osmosis on a song like Tomorrow, for instance. His vocals just sound really strong when he's doing that. But anyway, I like that song, Mr. Tinker Train. But yeah, when I'll get to other songs I like. The first thing I want to say, though, is when this album came out, around the same time, other albums that were big at the time were like the Black Album from Metallica. Obviously, that was a colossal album, a total juggernaut, if you will. And then you had Nevermind from Nirvana, and you had Dirt from Alice in Chains, which is a magnificent album. And A Vulgar Display of Power from Pantera came out in 92, so it came out the year after this one. But anyway, I'm just kind of saying, around the time, those are the albums I remember being big, and you'd hear the songs from them on the radio. And anyway, No More Tears was a good, solid album from Ozzy, in the sense that it was getting a lot of traction because it had radio-ready songs on it, even though it was. And that's because, and I gotta tell you, one of the songs that I really love on this album, despite it being a radio-friendly song, is Mama, I'm Coming Home. I don't care, some people may like that song, but they feel like it's a guilty pleasure. Or still, some other people might feel like, I can't like Mama, I'm Coming Home because it's a ballad, and therefore it's a weak track, and I'll be embarrassed if I like it or let people know. I don't care about shit like that, man. A good song is a good song, and Mama, I'm Coming Home is just a solid tune that hits all the right notes, and I just feel like the lyrics are just really moving in it. I love how passionate Ozzy sounds as he's singing the verse lines in this tune. It's just really passionate, heartfelt stuff. The funny thing is that some people, or probably a lot of people, when they think of Mama, they think it automatically means you're talking to your mother. But I've seen in interviews where Ozzy has said that at the end of a tour, he would call Sharon and he would call her Mama, and he would say, Mama, I'm coming home. So just a little tidbit if you didn't know. In this case, Mama, as far as Ozzy's concerned, I don't think it's necessarily that he's talking to his mother. You could take this song as someone talking to their girlfriend or their wife. But regardless of how you want to view the song, I mean, because you can take it however you want. It's up to the individual how they want to interpret a track at the end of the day and make it their own when they listen to it. But Mama, I'm Coming Home is a good song. This was a song that was co-written by Lemmy from Motorhead. He also had songwriting credits, I think, on I Don't Want to Change the World, Hellraiser, and Desire on this album. And so that was a good get for Ozzy at this time, because all the tracks, well, I Don't Want to Change the World, I wouldn't say is that great a song, and neither is Hellraiser. But this song, Mama, I'm Coming Home, and Desire are both standout cuts on No More Tears. But yeah, I love Mama, I'm Coming Home. I think it's a good song. And Desire is a good rocking tune as well. That's the kind of song that really gets stuck in your head. It's a memorable tune where you'll, out of all the songs on No More Tears, Desire is one of those songs where I'll just start thinking of the lyrics and kind of running through the song in my head. You know how sometimes you can play a song in your head? You don't even have to hit play on a fucking boombox or on your iPod or whatever the hell you're using to listen to music these days. I have a fucking Bluetooth speaker that I run my phone through and it plays all the fucking music I listen to. But whatever you're playing music through, yeah, that's one thing, but sometimes you're not playing music, but you can still hear a song in your head. Well, Desire is one of those songs. I can hear that song in my head any day of the week, like it'll just pop in there. It's just a really catchy tune and just really memorable. One of my absolute favorites on the album, though, is S.I.N. It's got a real driving feel to it, and it's moody and dark. I like that. The chorus is catchy. The verse lines with the lyrics, the way Ozzy's delivering them, it just feels like this really engaging song that's trying to paint this dramatic, really frantic picture of someone losing their mind. You know, when he's talking about, you know, in the lyrics, he says things like, I need an angel who can rescue me to save me from my mental symphony, because he's talking about all these voices in his head. It's just a really nerve-wracking, rocking song. I love it. And I'm not the biggest fan of Zakk Wylde, to tell you the truth. I mean, for me, I love Jake E. Lee. He's my number one Ozzy guitar player. My two favorite Ozzy albums, without a doubt, are The Ultimate Sin and Bark at the Moon. Those are my personal favorites. But Zakk Wylde's okay. Let's face it, he's okay. He just over relies on too much stuff. He's got a certain type of sound, you know, with all his pinch harmonics and shit, and just the way he plays. It's kind of samey. It kind of gets old to me after a while. But even on a song like S.I.N., he delivers some really... The soloing he does on this song is perfect for the track. And sometimes Zakk Wylde's like that. Like I said, it's not that I dislike Zakk Wylde's guitar playing. It's just that I don't love it either. It just kind of serves its purpose. It's there, and it does the job. But at the end of the day, would I rather have Jake E. Lee on all these Ozzy albums? Yes, I would. But let's face it, would they even be the same albums then? Obviously not, because Zakk Wylde was instrumental. No fucking pun intended. Zakk Wylde was integral to the albums that he was on. So, you know, the albums wouldn't even be the same. No Rest for the Wicked and No More Tears and Osmosis, those wouldn't be the same albums with Jake E. Lee. So I guess it was necessary for these albums to be what they are, that Zakk Wylde's on them. And yeah, bottom line, I'm getting off on a big tangent. S.I.N. is a damn good song, and if you didn't know, S.I.N. stands for Shadows in the Night. Isn't it kind of funny how Ozzy had these song titles on different albums? Like on this album, he's got S.I.N. and AVH. And then on Diary of a Madman, he's got SATO, you know, it's stuff like that. I think that's funny, and when I was a little kid, it was very mysterious stuff like that. Nowadays, you know, you can easily find out. You can do a fucking Google search and find out what the inspiration for the different song titles were. Another standout on the album as far as being catchy and memorable is Zombie Stomp. That one's got a very catchy chorus, and it's just a damn good song. Now, the rest of the album, as far as I'm concerned, you know, songs like No More Tears and Road to Nowhere and Mr. Tinker Train, they're all songs that are just good, solid songs. They're not great. They're not songs that I say, wow, that's an amazing tune that just blows your mind. But they're good songs, and they do the album justice. At the end of the day, do I like this album better than No Rest for the Wicked? No, I don't. I like No Rest for the Wicked better for various reasons. You know, it's got, you know, great tunes like Miracle Man and Breaking All the Rules, you know, stuff like that. Those are better songs in my opinion than stuff on No More Tears. for the most part. Do I like it better than Osmosis? That's the album that came out in 95, the album after No More Tears. No, I do not like it better than Osmosis. I think Osmosis has a lot better songs. I like Osmosis better than No More Tears and No Rest for the Wicked. In fact, I've said this before, and I'll say it again just in case someone's listening to this that hasn't heard me say previously. Osmosis is the last great Ozzy album. Hands down, it's the last great Ozzy album. After that, there was a significant drop off in quality for a lot of reasons. All right. And this would be a long, long podcast if I went into the reasons why. And well, let me start. First of all, after Osmosis, that was the last album where he could actually sing. He just couldn't sing anymore after that fucking album. His voice really started to deteriorate by the time you got to the late 90s. And once you get into the 2000s, his voice was just, man, it was just gone. And I was there. I would go to shows, and he couldn't get through an entire set. There were shows I went to, I had tickets to, where he was supposed to show up, like Ozfest 97, all right? The first date, the original date that was set, when it was time for Ozzy to come on and perform, because that night it was going to be Ozzy's band first, the Ozzy solo band, and then he was supposed to come on with Black Sabbath after that. Well, it was a last-minute cancellation, and everyone started rioting at the fucking place. It was crazy. All right, that was a bill that had Typo Negative on it, Marilyn Manson, Pantera, and they all came on stage and were going through this Ozzy medley. And then, you know, Phil Anselmo announced that Ozzy was sick, his throat was fucked up, and he wouldn't be performing that night. And the crowd just fucking lost it, because, like I said, we were supposed to see an Ozzy set and then a Black Sabbath reunion set. Well, it didn't happen, and the audience lost their fucking mind. I still remember that very vividly. Now, they ended up making up that date, okay? And we got to see the Ozzy solo set and the Black Sabbath reunion set. They ended up making up that date about a month later that summer. And then I saw Ozzy cancel again in 1999. It was a Black Sabbath, one of the Black Sabbath reunion shows. It was once again with Pantera opening. But anyway, we drove clear to Pittsburgh for that show, and the goddamn show was canceled. We got there and found out the last minute they had to cancel because of Ozzy's fucking voice. Well, they ended up a month later. They did a makeup date for that show, and guess what? Could Ozzy get through the fucking show? No, he couldn't. Couldn't get through the show. Couldn't even sing Iron Man. That's how bad it was. And I'd always wonder at these shows, I'd be watching, I go, you know, if Ozzy had any sense, instead of screaming, let me fucking hear you, and go crazy, and all this bullshit over and over again, it's a part of his whole fucking thing, if he'd stop screaming that stuff over and over again, maybe he'd save a little bit of energy in his throat to be able to get through the set. You know, I wish someone would have told him that. I mean, doesn't he have a paid staff that's keeping track of shit for him and might want to, you know, give him some pointers every now and then? You think he'd have handlers that would have told him, hey, Ozzy, instead of screaming, let's go crazy 20 fucking times, maybe you should save some of your vocal prowess, what energy you got, into just delivering a solid set. Maybe you'd get through an extra 2 songs in the set and really give people their money's worth. But no, I guess no one ever gave him that memo. So anyway, long story short, let's get back to No More Tears. It ended up being a big hit. I guess No More Tears is the second best-selling Ozzy album after Blizzard of Oz. So, I mean, that's how popular. I mean, they were going for a real streamlined commercial approach on No More Tears. And they certainly hit pay dirt. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they achieved what they wanted to with this album, because it's, like I said, it's an album that your average person, not even Ozzy fans, okay, just your average rock radio listener, they could turn on the radio and they'd hear a song like Time After Time or Mama, I'm Coming Home, and they go, oh, I like that. That's cool. And they didn't even have to be an Ozzy fan. Or they'd hear a song like I Don't Want to Change the World. And I mean, that's just easy for your average person to get into. One other memory I want to point out about this album is around the time this album, you know, was out and fresh and everything, and I'd be playing the cassette and everything. He also released, a year or two later, they released the live album, and it also had a video, and I had the VHS of it, Live and Loud, and it was an Ozzy live video. It was funny at the time. I would take that video, the Live and Loud, and I'd show it to friends and stuff, because at the time it was kind of funny. and shocking to us as kids. You have this singer running around stage mooning the audience, showing his bare ass to the audience, flipping them off, giving them the fucking middle finger, and at one point he's wearing a damn dildo on stage. You know, that kind of shit was funny. You know, when you're in 6th grade and you're watching stuff like that, it's pretty funny shit, so I always remember that. And, you know, the funny thing is despite that, despite him acting like a goofball on stage and stuff, and then I'd also see him talk like on the Don't Blame Me documentary video. He seemed to be pretty lucid in that video, in that Don't Blame Me documentary that came out around this time. So this was really before my image of Ozzy was kind of like shattered when they started doing that Osbourne shit in the early 2000s and everything, you know, afterwards. That kind of ruined my image of Ozzy because he's just perceived as a fucking goofball now, and that kind of bums me out. You know, Ozzy to me when I was a kid was this mysterious, scary kind of guy. You know what I mean? You look at album covers like Diary of a Madman, and it was scary stuff. And then my stepmom was against me listening to Ozzy. My dad loved Ozzy, but my stepmom was like, no, Ozzy, he bit the head off a bat and he drank the blood on stage and he's demonic. And, you know, there was all this stuff in the media about Ozzy, so that created like this dark, mysterious image of him. And as a child, you know, you eat that stuff up because it's larger than life. It's like a musical horror movie, you know, his image at the time. I loved horror, so having someone like Ozzy and listening to his music, you just had this image of him as this dark, mysterious person. So, you know, the thing I valued as I got older, you know, I didn't so much value that anymore, but at this point in my life, I really value intelligence and, you know, the ability to think clearly and have all of your fucking bearings. You know, shit like that matters to me. So when you see stuff like that Osbourne show where Ozzy's basically a fucking vegetable, it's just a real bummer, dude. That's a letdown. You know, I actually believed when I was a little kid, when I looked at the back of the Bark at the Moon album and it said all songs written by Ozzy Osbourne, I actually believed that he wrote all those songs. So, you know, as I got older and I learned the way it really was, it was kind of, you know, just kind of sad because, like I said, I value intelligence, and so it's kind of sad that Ozzy's mind is so, you know, exactly what it is. You know, they market him nowadays, you know, in the last 20 years, he's been marketed as kind of a goofball, you know, and he's been put in a way, he's been used in a way that makes him look silly. And that's really sad because I wish it was a case of where, you know, behind the scenes, the guy may be losing his bearings and he may not be with it. But at least if he would have been shielded in a way where his image was protected, and if he had people around him that said, no, we're not going to make this guy look goofy. Let's not show this to the public because it just puts him in a bad light. I wish that would have been the case because the guy has a really strong musical legacy, both with Black Sabbath and as a solo artist, that I think should be protected. It's not so much that I need him to be this guy that's all scary and all this stuff like when I was a kid, but don't make the guy look like a goofball. Ain't it a shame that they did that? So that's kind of the last thing I wanted to close the video on. I mean, when I was a kid, just to straighten this so you understand where I'm coming from, I'm not saying that it sucked that when he'd be on stage, he'd be flipping people off and mooning the audience. That's fine. That's one thing. That's just that was part of his rock star image. I'm talking about the shit where he just looks like a fucking silly buffoon. You know what I mean? When he's like living his life and they're showing him behind the scenes, or like a lot of the interviews that have been done where he's sputtering and he can't talk. I just think that his image should have been protected more, and he shouldn't have put himself out there in such a vulnerable light where people can just laugh at you and mock you. That's all I want to say, and yeah, let me know, you know, what are your favorite songs on No More Tears? My favorites would be S.I.N. and Mama, I'm Coming Home. If I had to pick just two, those would be my top two. Because like I said, I feel no shame about liking that song, Mama, I'm Coming Home. It's just a perfectly written and executed song. It just hits all the right notes. And an SIN, like I said, is a good moody rockin' tune. So yeah, guys, I'll be talking to you again really, really soon.